So I recently did a video covering which specialist weapon fared best against Scorestreaks in Black Ops 3. And let's face it, there's been so many buffs, nerfs, and overall changes that God only knows what's relevant anymore and what's not. Now, some of the comments in that video asked if I could do the same thing, but rather for the Safeguard robot. Luckily, I had already done just that. So I went through and tested each specialist weapon against the Safeguard robot to see which ones would make an impact and which ones were more or less duds. I also took the time to test every Scorestreak against the Safeguard robot as well. Before we dive into the results, let me just briefly set the stage with one of the more common ways to dispose of the Safeguard robot. And that's obviously the launchers. If you're a fan of Safeguard, it should be of no surprise that the launchers are a viable way to take down the robot. Even more so when a whole team is utilizing them at the same time. The Black Cell reigns supreme due to its abnormally large ammo capacity. It'll take all 4 rockets from a Black Cell launcher to take out the robot. Now the XM53 only has 2 rockets maximum, and it also takes 4 to take out the robot. However, you can at least free fire the XM53 without having to lock on. So at least there's that slight benefit. If you're fortunate enough to have the DLC launcher, the L4 Siege, well, you're not as fortunate as you may think. Despite it having 4 rockets to start with, it takes 8 to dispose of the robot. However, should you be running Scavenger with a pack nearby, it refills all 4 rockets. With that said, they recently nerfed the reload speed of the L4 Siege, and it now can only reload 2 rockets at a time. So now let's talk specialist weapons. I've made a few tables here to clearly demonstrate my findings. So first of all, here's all the data with regard to the specialist weapons. I have 2 categories here: whether or not the specialist weapon in question could take out the robot in one use, and if so, how many shots or hits it took. Let's start with the rubbish ones first. The gravity spikes, the H.I.V.E, the scythe, and the purifier all cannot take out the robot in a single use. Of these, it should be of no surprise that the purifier is on this list. If you missed my last video, the Purifier is hands down the worst specialist weapon against Scorestreaks in Black Ops 3. So I'm not blown away that it also sucks against the Safeguard robot. The other 3 though came as a big surprise. There's no reason that the Scythe shouldn't be able to take out the Safeguard robot. In fact, it used to be able to. However, they nerfed the ammo count on the Scythe so much that it no longer has the stopping power to take it out, which is quite unfortunate. If you shoot all 5 of Nomad's H.I.V.E pods at the robot, it still won't be enough to take it out. Considering the H.I.V.E can dispose of a GI unit in all 5 pods, this was somewhat shocking to me. When it comes to the gravity spikes, I think I agree with this. They're already pretty potent given their blast radius effect, so they probably shouldn't be able to disable the robot. I did test both a direct impact gravity spike as well as a blast radius type. But even when dropping the Macho Man Randy Savage elbow straight upside the robot's head, it won't disable it in one shot. Now let's talk about the 5 specialist weapons that can disable the robot in one use. The Sparrow, the Tempest, the War Machine, the Annihilator, and the Ripper all are effective at taking out the robot. As for the Sparrow, it fires way too slow and takes a generous amount of ammo to dispose of the robot, but it's definitely possible. I'd rank the Annihilator and the Tempest on about equal ground. Both shoot fairly quickly and are easy enough to aim. The Annihilator has the slight edge though due to it only taking 5 shots as opposed to 6 from the Tempest. Now the best 2 specialist weapons are the War Machine and the Ripper. The War Machine has the fastest time to disable the robot out of all the weapons as it only takes 4 direct impact hits. You do have a maximum of 8 shots, so you'll have some room for error should your aim not be up to par. The Ripper on the other hand takes 8 slashes. Now this may seem like a lot, but the speed at which you can slash is incredibly fast. If you couple that with the fact that you can have unlimited slashes with no penalty to your specialist meter, you can hack and slash your way through the robot in no time flat. If I had to pick one or the other, I'd say the Ripper wins. Despite all the specialist weapons being earned slower than most game modes in Safeguard, the Ripper still prevails as the fastest to obtain. Now turning our attention to Scorestreaks against the Safeguard robot, this is the overall picture. Let's first take a look at those streaks that will not disable the robot in a single use. It should be of no shock that the HCXD card just doesn't cut it damage-wise. The Guardian does damage the robot, but it's so minuscule that it may as well not do damage at all. I left it up the entire duration and it barely scratched the robot's health. The Lightning Strike is not very feasible in disabling the robot. However, considering the area effect of the strike, this can obviously still clear anyone trying to escort it. The Rolling Thunder is almost identical to the Lightning Strike, in that both streaks can't disable it but will clear the area, and the Wraith simply won't target the robot at all. Now these are the Scorestreaks that can disable the robot. I'll cover my personal top 4 in just a second, but let's talk about some of the other ones first. So of the streaks that can do work on their own, such as the Sentry Gun, the Talon, and the GI unit, the Talon is the best. It takes 16.817 seconds to disable the robot if you yourself manually control it. If you don't control it and you let the computer do the work, it has a significant delay in firing. Now this eventually will disable the robot, but it takes nearly an entire minute and is thus not worthwhile. Even 16.817 seconds isn't too keen, as the Talon has incredibly low health. You'll have to be a Top Gun pilot with Goose as your wingman to efficiently take out the robot without getting shot down. Now the GI unit will definitely engage in some robot-on-robot sexual action. However, it just takes entirely too long. 55.85 seconds to be precise. And this is due to the slow fire rate of the GI unit. Not to mention he acts like a black sock wearing wiswag and reloads every so often. Now the Sentry Gun can both hold down an area as well as target the Safeguard robot. With no enemies in sight, the Sentry will take out the robot in 27.817 seconds. This by itself is a long time, but given the fact that it can also target enemies, you can use this ideal defensive strategy when the robot comes marching in your backyard. The RAPS drones can also target the Safeguard robot. Much like the Black Cell launcher, it'll take exactly 4 drones to disable the robot. The problem is, these things aren't too bright. So while it is possible for them to target the robot, more often than not they blaze right by it. So that leaves my top 4 streaks to disable the robot. The Dart, the Hellstorm, the Cerberus, and the Mothership. Since not everyone can obtain a Mothership, let's discuss that one first. Now I know that the chances are slim to none that you'll be using this to do anything other than slaughter the enemy team. But should you be losing and need to play the objective, with both the rockets and the machine gun, it'll only take a whopping 3.967 seconds to disable the robot. You need to be aware that while in the Mothership, you're not notified that the robot gets disabled. There's no points that pop up, and it definitely doesn't tell you that it's been disabled on your screen like it normally would. Now the rockets by themselves are almost useless against the robot, and the charge time to get them back is dreadfully slow. It's the machine gun fire that's potent. To get the fastest time possible though, I combined both. So next up is the Dart. Considering the low point cost for earning the Dart, it's remarkable that it even can disable the robot. In actuality though, it's kind of hard to pull off. The only way to disable a fresh robot is by hitting it with all 3 rockets. If you can maneuver it well enough to get locked on, this should be a breeze as you can rapid fire the rockets once locked on. Now getting in position is a lot more difficult than it sounds. I also tried to direct impact the Safeguard robot without firing the rockets, but this will not disable it. So now for the top 2 Scorestreaks to disable the Safeguard robot. First, the Hellstorm missile. Not only is this a relatively easy to earn streak, but it'll instantly disable the robot if you direct it straight up the robot's ass. You may be tempted to split the Hellstorm missile to maximize area effect, but this will do next to nothing to the robot. In order to ensure a disable, you must hit it directly. Luckily, the robot gets tagged red and is easy to locate and thus direct impact. Now the best Scorestreak to disable the robot came as a bit of a surprise to me, but anyone who's used the Cerberus manually before will have definitely realized its potential. If you don't manually control the Cerberus, it'll still attack the Safeguard robot, but it does so haphazardly. It won't do a continuous fire and it likes to observe the scenery more often than not. The best approach is by controlling it yourself. The Cerberus has unlimited machine gun fire as well as 3 rockets. Unfortunately, it takes 4 rockets to disable the robot, and there's a brief cooldown period upon firing your 3rd one. But with that said, if you have both at your disposal, it only takes 2.5 seconds to disable the robot. This is absolutely incredible. Even if you don't have the rockets, the machine gun fire alone still gets the job done pretty quickly. The Cerberus also lasts an incredibly long time. I'd say it's possible to disable the robot as many as 5 times with the Cerberus in one use. No other streak or specialist weapon for that matter can match this. So whether or not you're a vicious admirer of the Safeguard game mode, chances are you've at least played it one time. It'll help to know which tactics disable the robot fastest for when things get messy. For example, if you're down in a close game and the safeguard robot is marching towards victory, you've got to be quick on your feet to help your team disable it. Based on everything I've covered in this video, I would highly recommend using the Ripper Specialist weapon coupled with the Dart, the Hellstorm, and the Cerberus Scorestreaks. This combination provides you with ample opportunities to keep the robot in check, and should you reach the Cerberus, you may as well consider the round in which you call it in yours. With the awe-inspiring power of both machine gun and rocket fire, you can disable the robot repeatedly, leaving your enemies scrambling to try and rid of your streak, instead of marching to victory.